For centuries, the Lingyue continent has been the promised land for those who seek to attain immortality. The Island of Heavenly Mysteries, which is located at the very center of the continent, is the place where natural spiritualized qi accumulates. The one who manages to get into it and become its master will be able to gain power over the entire immortal realm. And if one is able to cast the elixir of immortality into that place, that domination will be eternal. However, the ancient art of preparing the elixir of the immortals has been lost. For thousands and hundreds of years, no one had succeeded in creating it. Only one person on the continent, the elixir-making genius Zhang Yifeng, had been tirelessly trying to achieve this goal. And as a result, he's about to achieve a smashing success. One more step and the elixir of longevity could be extracted. It was only one step away from becoming an immortal emperor. But it seems someone has blabbed his plans. A lot of cultivators gathered. Someone ordered me to hand over the recipe for the elixir of longevity. An insect that crawled in at the smell of meat, daring to demand something from him. He scattered a small pile of cultivators. They kept talking about handing over the recipe. Otherwise, he shouldn't expect any mercy. That's what heavenly warriors are like. The recipe for the elixir is in his head, and they will not get it. Zhang Yifeng punched at the old man with his hand. Whoever they are, none of them are his rivals. The man had had enough, and so he suggested we all attack together. At this moment, 8/10 of his spiritualized qi was being used to keep the alchemical furnace running. In order to deal with so many heavenly warriors, the best solution would be to use the Dark Soul elixir. But something was wrong with him. His life force bursts into Dumai and boils like crazy. There's a traitor in his school. Could it be one of his students? Maybe even one of the servants, or someone else. It opened up, so they need to grab it quickly, after which extract the memories. He may not have been able to finish the elixir of longevity today, but the secret of making it will forever go to the grave with him. They will never have it. He's going to self-destruct. I think that kid's about to drop his skates. His buddy isn't moving anymore either. Zhang Yifeng is not dead. But it's not quite like that. It's not his body. The previous owner of this body is dead, but some memories remain. This little boy's name is exactly the same as his. He was the young heir to the Zhang family's corporation. 6 months ago, his family went bankrupt. His father committed suicide, his mother died of grief, and his only younger sister was chased away. Originally, he was going to borrow his good friend Zhao Lun to help him through a difficult period. But considering what he was going through, Zhao Lun couldn't accept his money and found another senior student to borrow from. After taking the loan despite the huge interest rate, it came to a brutal beating of the two friends. This man's methods of improvement have a common origin with his own. He could not penetrate them thoroughly, only because his family had gone through a decline. He and his family are soulmates. Zhang Yifeng will help clean up this mess. The only problem was that compared to the Lingyue continent, this place barely felt the presence of qi. Furthermore, its meridians had also sustained significant damage. I guess those two won't understand until they're dead. What kind of idiots would have to be to believe a story about a generous upperclassman? These generous seniors are his high-interest loan agents. These two didn't even realize they'd been conned. But an unidentified man told the boss to take a look at it. That kid woke up. Since he's eavesdropping on their secrets, it's about time he found out what happens to smart guys like that. The man wanted to hit him, but the protagonist dodged that blow. His arm was definitely hurting right now. The man used the floating clouds movement technique. The training of these people is no good at all. They only rely on brute force and only waste their energy. Anyway, he can't dodge all the time. He must find an opportunity to counterattack. He was able to respond to the man's punch. The others ran up to Brother Chow. How did this guy get to be so cool all of a sudden? But that won't help him. He pissed off Brother Chow, so now he won't pay him back for a few lives. He couldn't manage to stun this man with one blow. This body is too weak. To strengthen it, it needs to internalize something that contains at least a little bit of spiritualized qi. He noticed the iron spirit grass. In a place that is deprived of spiritualized qi, iron spirit grass grows. Although it doesn't possess anything outstanding, it's only used by cultivators of the initial stage. Even on the continent, it's not very common. The reason why there is a much denser spiritualized qi present on the Lingyue continent is because a large amount of it drifts in the air. Thus, it is more dispersed and can be absorbed freely. In the same place, it is centered within the few spiritual objects that can only become so over time. It was lucky that he had with him a rare treasure capable of repairing damaged bones. The man remembered it. Unsurprisingly, this man, not being an initiate, has strength that surpasses a mere mortal. It turns out that his power was fueled by water jade. The energy of this spiritual object can stimulate the life force, thereby healing wounds. In the 5-element system, water jade and iron spirit grass belong to the first-rank spiritual items. Iron spirit herb possesses the spiritualized qi of metal and wood, and water jade possesses the energy of water and earth. Pushing these two items against each other can result in the creation of a second-rank elixir. He will repay him double for that weed. Zhang Yifeng once again dodged his punch. He was even able to take away the water jade. Water begets wood, earth begets metal. Yin and yang energies give birth and stack up. He used a palm alchemical vessel, elixir of the fiery tiger. The man didn't realize what was even going on. He was able to create an elixir, after which he accepted it. This allowed the guy to get to the first level of body hardening. For destroying his family heirloom, this guy will pay with his life. The man already wanted to attack, but some kind of energy blob began to appear in Zhang Yifeng's hand. He was yelling at the guy to die, but Zhang Yifeng flipped him off. Others immediately began to worry about the boss. They just realized that the kid hit the boss from a distance. But he was just lucky, because a kid like him can't compete with Brother Chao. Chao shouted for them to deal with Zhang Yifeng. He was only lucky because Brother Chao's attention had waned. But this time, he wouldn't have a chance to respond. If he wants to still live, he better fall on his knees and ask for forgiveness. As long as he has the opportunity to do so. He completed the spell. Now no matter how many there are, there will be only one outcome. They might not even have to hold back. Having reached the second level of body hardening, he can now utilize even more rich spiritualized qi. Regardless of the number of targets, he can hit them simultaneously. The boss's subordinates fell at his feet. Chao will ask Boss Xiaobing to send people and call Zhang Yifeng to order. All he has to do is wait. He'll be only too happy to see what else this boss will do. Zhang Yifeng asked his good friend Zhao Lun if he was all right. He was fine, but Xiaobin's name is widely popular in the dark circles. If they find Zhang Yifeng, he will definitely be in trouble. What's to come is what's to come. There's nothing to be afraid of. Besides, it's too boring to beat those people who are only fit to be punching bags. If one of them turns out to be outstanding, that would be good. You can practice your skills. Yifeng was hungry, so he asked where to eat here. Lun asked why he was suddenly asking if he always ate in the dining hall. According to the memories of the previous owner, he used to eat in the canteen. The name seems familiar, but at the same time, it feels alien. Instead of wandering in the dark, the first thing to do is to adapt to the new surroundings. Yifeng decided to leave, but if anything happened, his friend should just call him. Lun couldn't figure out if this Zhang Yifeng was someone he knew. The atmosphere around him was somehow strange, though he always seemed a bit odd to him. Most people are incapable of utilizing their inner energy. They are highly developed in science and technology, the fruits of which present them with great convenience in all sorts of aspects of life. The university resembles a school in which methods of improvement are studied. The canteen is a place of refreshment for the students of the school. A dining card is also like a school pass that you can stock up and spend money on. So far, the most difficult thing to handle is the phone. Although it has all the memories of its previous owner, he has only just figured out how to use it. This time, when Yu Chao tried to get out of debt, he was sent to the hospital, and it seems to be the work of Zhang Yifeng. He's one of the main fiends in this university. Because of his build, no one was able to beat him. Zhang Yifeng is really tough. In this world, enhancement techniques are too eye-catching. You'll need another place to use them. This little boy lived in a country house. After his parents passed away, he moved to the university. He's worth a look. The Zhang family's cottage. It is away from busy streets and is saturated with spiritualized qi. It's a good choice, especially considering that in the middle of the terrace on the second floor is a spiritual stone that can influence the surrounding spiritualized qi, constrict it, and transform it into a vortex of spiritual energy. In this place, tempering will bring more benefits with less effort. Unfortunately, his access was invalid. But do they really think that's going to stop him? An old man came out and yelled at him for what he was doing. After that, he told the guy to leave immediately. That old man was Feng the butler. Yifeng is willing to turn a blind eye to the fact that the butler didn't greet him. But kicking him out is a bit much since this is his family's house. Young master doesn't know yet, but his second uncle has sold this house. The deposit has already been paid. Today he came to hand it over to the new owner. If he doesn't believe it, let him ask his uncle. Didn't he, or has he, in the past, given this house to his uncle to take care of? That kid had no money management skills whatsoever. Same goes for his second uncle. The so-called next of kin is clearly untrustworthy. He should take charge of his own affairs. Back in the days when he had to spend too much qi to maintain the alchemical tripod, and getting involved in a battle was problematic. He decided to go about making the elixir of immortal within the school. Who would have thought that someone would give him away, ship his elixir, and ruin everything when he was just a step away from triumph? If he can ever come back, there's no way he'll repeat his mistakes. Based on the former owner's recollections, this home was once a place of family comfort and grace. Even though he had a mediocre talent, when he decided to start improving, his parents gave everything to buy a spiritual stone in the hope that it would help him. The environment here hasn't changed a bit, but the people living here have disappeared, and there is no way to save this family. He must reclaim this house. As it was for the previous owner, it will become his refuge in this world. Yifeng called back to his second uncle and asked if he had sold the house. The guy lives at the university, and he's a little short on cash right now, so he sold this house. If he has any expenses, the guy should call him right away. Yifeng thanked him for his kindness, but when his father dies, he owns the house, and if he sells it, all the money goes to his account. One call from him, and the money his uncle had received as a deposit would be frozen and automatically go to him. It was the butler who didn't bother to discuss such an important matter with Yifeng, so he doesn't need his services from this day forward. He will take care of the house himself, so the butler should leave. He told that brat to tone it down, or he wouldn't get the sales contract. But thanks to one action by the guy, he was able to get the piece of paper that was under the butler's wig. Butler went off to catch his hair. This is the first time Yifeng has ever seen a man hide a contract in his wig. He really is a real talent. Suddenly, someone asked if the guy was the owner's son. Yajiao came to buy a house. But the house isn't for sale. How can it not sell if they've already put down a deposit? The sale contract was made by other people without his knowledge. The owner is Zhang Yifeng, so the contract is invalid. They came here from far away, and tomorrow, Jiao Jiao has to report for university enrollment. What should they do now? Yifeng asked if she was thinking of enrolling in Qingkai. Would this girl really be studying at the same university as him? Judging from his reaction, he is also a student of Qingkai. She asked her older brother to take care of her and sell this house, but Yifeng still won't sell. In this contract, it is written in black and white that in case of breach of contract at the stage of its implementation, the amount of compensation is 5 times the amount of the deposit. The deposit is 50,000. If he wants to cover the costs of the contract, he will have to pay 250,000. The previous owner did not leave behind any savings. The purchase of elixirs and talismans for improvement will also have to be spent. It would be too costly to break the contract and pay compensation. The condition of his family is now in decline. He is unable to pay the penalty. Why don't they turn that deposit into a security deposit? He'll remain the owner and rent out part of the apartment to them. The rent would be 20,000 a month. Would he be okay with that? Not to say that this option is unacceptable. The southern and northern parts of the house are detached and there is an opportunity to set passwords there. It took her a long time to find a cottage like that. Plus, classes start tomorrow, so she just doesn't have time to look for other options. On top of that, this upperclassman is quite attractive, even though he seems a little slow-witted. He doesn't get to talk to girls very often. If she does a little trickery, he will serve her faithfully. And she was beginning to worry that there would be no one at the new university to stand up for her. She agreed to his proposal. The man wondered if she was really going to live under the same roof with this boy. I mean, he could use her. Rather, she would try not to hurt him. She told Daddy to relax, because the girl knows what she's doing. The old guys believed her too. As long as the guy gets along with his daughter, then there's no problem. Why did Yajiao's father didn't even bargain with him and just accepted his terms? He's got to go, because business is slow. And she shouldn't wait too long to move in either. Zhang Yifeng will live in the southern part, and the girl in the northern part. He's decided to see her off, but she also wants to live in the southern part. She really likes the terrace there, but he needs the terrace, so she won't give it up. Her dad said he wasn't allowed to offend the girl. Given his considerate and frugal way of doing business, Yifeng must wonder why her father accepted his offer so easily and carelessly. The rent for a cottage without a terrace or balcony is not worth 20,000. You can't fool this girl that easily. Looks like we'll have to use a special method to solve this problem. He used the technique of spiritualizing qi. All objects in this world have a form formed by natural energy. When most objects solidify, taking their final form, they are deprived of this energy. Alchemy, using spiritualized qi, is able to create special forms that, once solidified, become filled with a much more abundant amount of energy. Thus, he just needed to create a terrace for her, taking into account the architectural norms of this world. This construction won't possess spiritualized qi. It would be 100 times easier than creating elixirs. He quickly created a terrace. The guy asked if she was sure she had scrutinized the layout of the house. After all, there was a terrace on the north side too. The girl was surprised by that. But this terrace seemed too small to her. At most, she could dry her clothes and bask in the sun. There wasn't enough room for a tea table and a wicker chair to enjoy afternoon tea. But, according to her, she just wanted a terrace. She didn't say which one specifically, so it fulfills her request. The last time she'd looked around the house, there had clearly been no terrace on the north side. Or perhaps she'd forgotten something. The air is much better on the north side. She'd also heard that a strange silhouette appeared on the south side at night. Maybe he'll have nightmares after that. But he'll just beat the crap out of that silhouette. Everything is exactly as it was in the previous owner's memories. Nothing has changed. The ambience is quite nice, and the place is cozy. Surprisingly, there is a bamboo grove in front of the house. It is a concentration of a small amount of spiritualized qi, but it cannot be compared to the terrace. Hiyajiao said that in the evenings, a strange silhouette can be seen from the south side of the house, and the south side is just opposite the bamboo grove. Perhaps this silhouette has something to do with her, but no silhouettes are visible. But he noticed the swift gust of his fist. He had originally thought that people in this world were incapable of using tempering techniques. He didn't think he would meet a person of great talents here, plus a man who practices martial arts. Except his respiratory rate is a little higher than normal. His body doesn't seem to have any strength at all. That's what an elderly person is. He must have suffered internal injuries in his youth. He'd done something wrong. The old man had gotten so carried away that the boy had to take a couple of his blows. However, he was surprised that he was able to dodge them so easily. Yifeng replied that he was just lucky. He seems quite young, and yet he was able to handle the old man's 2 attacks with such ease. So he is also a martial artist. He actually learned some martial arts when he lived on the Lingyue continent. Since they are comrades in the craft, he won't go around. Why the guy, after seeing the old man, shook his head disapprovingly. If he found a flaw in his technique, the guy might have a few admonishments for the old man. He wouldn't dare to teach him. Yifeng felt that this technique wasn't really suitable for him. His body in its current state was completely unsuitable for practicing this technique. The old man wondered why. His body was suffering from internal organ disease. It seems that the old man thought that practicing such brutal techniques and fistfighting would help harden his body and strengthen his health. But in fact, it only puts more strain on the body. If this disease is not eradicated, he will not live a couple of years. The guy's study of martial arts is barely above the elementary stage. He hasn't read any medical treatises either. Then what was the basis for such a frivolous assessment regarding the fierce wolf fist that he had been practicing for years? He didn't put all his strength into those blows. He suggested that the boy do it all over again when the old man showed him what he could do. It's an old man's body we're talking about, so he knows better. If he wants to try it, it's fine with the guy. When they're done, the old man will understand. It seemed to him that this guy's breathing method was different from ordinary people. Yifeng decided to grant the first strike to him. In that case, he won't be ceremonious. The old man got too close to the guy too fast. He wanted to attack him with his technique already. Now he saw how great this little boy's abilities were after all. Yifeng stopped this attack with a movement of his finger. He only lightly stabbed his finger. But after that stab, the old man's meridians became completely exhausted. That's what softness conquers hardness means. The more uncompromising the technique of fistfighting, the greater the need for the hardness and health of the body of the person practicing it. The more uncompromising the technique of fistfighting, the greater the need for firmness and health of the body of the person practicing it. On the other hand, because of this, it is subjected to excessive stress and can easily suffer under the weight of external factors. This fellow was truly skillful and wise. The old man misjudged him. He is indeed suffering from internal ailments, and yet the old man still wanted to live a couple years to see his granddaughter married. Perhaps this young man knows how to remedy this situation. Grandpa has no reason to be so serious. Since this meeting was predestined, the guy will do everything he can to help him. He knows one breathing exercise technique that might come in handy. Was this really the technique the guy had used before striking? It really was her. He asked this young man to condescend and give advice and accept the bow of such a decrepit old man. Yifeng tried to stop him, for he was much older than the man himself. Among people who practice martial arts, the one who is an expert is the one who should be the mentor. He's just following decorum, and the guy can't shrug them off. The initial part of the technique he explained. Regular daily practice is bound to produce results. The breathing exercise technique would hardly be able to cure the disease, but it would ease the strain on the body. A little later, Yifeng would hand him the final part. He thanked his younger brother and also asked what his name was. His last name is Zhang and his first name is Yifeng. In that case, he will just call him by his first name. This old man's name is Qi Lao. He hopes the guy will let him give him the gift. He said to move the book here. The moment he clashed with Qi Lao, Yifeng vaguely felt someone's presence nearby. It turns out that it was his guard. Although his level of tempering was not comparable to that of Qi Lao, this person was also the kind of person who could improve. Yifeng handed him the breathing technique without pursuing personal gains. Qi Lao wants to hand over a book that contains the palm technique, which is much more ferocious than the fist technique. With his health, he is unable to practice it, so it would be better if the guy gets it. Could this be the thunder palm technique that he had been searching for all along while he was in the Lingyue continent? After years of searching for it, he still couldn't find it. So how could it even be here? Could it be that this place was somehow related to that continent? Yifeng asked where the old man got it. Qi Lao won it at an auction along with a few other things. It's an unfinished piece, but given his current situation, it would be enough for now. As for the connection to the continent and this world, the old man wouldn't be able to give him an answer. If the opportunity arises, one would have to ask about it at the auction. There was a spiritualized qi map, able to mark the points in the city most saturated with spiritualized qi. There were also shops where one could purchase spiritual items. He thanked Qi Lao, after which he said goodbye to him. You can buy secret potions at Qisheng Hall, and you'll need to go to Chenjia Park to buy spirit stones. As it turns out, the guy went in the wrong place. This was He Yajiao's room. He said he didn't do it on purpose, but she called him shameless and chased him away. That girl doesn't listen to him at all. But now he has to get back to training. By activating spiritual items in a well-defined sequence, one can increase their absorption rate and gain a greater amount of spiritualized qi. Then, after encapsulating it in the body, one must allow the body to absorb it. Zhang Yifeng advanced to the second level of body hardening. The progression is fast, but there are limitations too. If he wants to keep making breakthroughs, he'll have to wait for a bigger opportunity. The Thunder Palm technique was something he had partially learned. It is capable of compressing spiritualized qi, creating an air vortex and electrical charges. It is quite suitable considering his current state. He noticed that there were messages on his phone. It said there would be a class meeting in the afternoon. The discussion will be about getting a scholarship. Latecomers would be automatically ineligible. Looks like we'll have to go to the university first. He noticed some guys surrounding another one. He even wondered what was going on here. It's time to pay the toll. Astonishing audacity. If Yifeng had known earlier, he would have sent this brother Chao to a hospital bed that day. But He Yajiao was also there. She was also told to give back her money. She didn't have any cash on her. He'd have to settle for a transfer or nothing. The boss was telling this gal she didn't have to get snippy with them. Transfers make up the trail. If she doesn't have cash with her, she'd better go to the bank and get some. They can wait. He's out of his mind, that's what he is. If she won't give money, they'll be set up if the girl has a little fun with them. She told him to stay back. They're on campus now. If he comes any closer, she'll call security. This university is on his property, and the guards are his people. Who did she think she was calling? If she doesn't know what to do, they can help her figure it out. She screamed not to be touched. But then his hand was stopped. The man inquired who it was. He'd seen it somewhere before. It was indeed that little guy. As it turned out, that boss was Xiao's brother. Chao said that this was the same Zhang Yifeng who had beaten up their brothers. Yifeng replied that it was indeed him. That's her shameless senior. How did he end up here? So she's not going to say thank you. Anyway, this case didn't initially appear to be her salvation. He just can't stand the sight of the dregs of society, so he decided to clean up the place. It'll give him a chance to get his hands dirty and try out some new tricks. This guy's too cocky. Who the hell does he think he is? He used the Thunder Palm technique, first form. The wind carrying the clouds away. These guys are too incompetent. He's just warming up and they're already laying down. This guy, even after all the injuries, is still worried about money. Yifeng started taunting him to try and take them. They're not likely to be as active anytime soon. They can have their money back. Everyone thanked Big Brother. The girl didn't think he was such a kindly man, but the guy was yelled at to stand where he was standing. This kid's pretty feisty. He beat up his men that time and now he's messing up his case. He's already messed him up twice. Yifeng asked who he was. The dog ate his brains. He's Xiaobin, Jingkai's boss. One word from him to the rector and he'll be out of here. But Yifeng didn't plan on staying here for long anyway. This clown's really messed up. Xiaobing decided to teach him a lesson. His attack carried a scratch to Yifeng. It's an unusual martial art. These are the techniques of a refinement technique wielder. There were many more warriors in this world than he had imagined. It's getting more and more interesting. Although the striking power of his technique is not up to that of Qilao's fist technique, it is nevertheless more stealthy and deadly. It must be a technique that has been passed down in his family from generation to generation. Defeating him will be a piece of cake. Xiaobing attacked him again. Yifeng used a thunderous stun. Xiaobing recognized that this guy had a heavy hand. However, he had already grasped what Zhang Yifeng was capable of. Soon, he would be finished with him. He was too focused on counterattacks and didn't notice the men approaching him. The first thing to do was to get rid of them. For some reason, these people didn't attack. Suddenly, he noticed a spiritual blockage formation above his head. This formation can constrict the flow of spiritualized qi and make him powerless. This is a form of spiritual energy that can constrict the flow of spiritualized qi and make him powerless. He needs to get out of this trap. But what about breaking this formation? He decided to try and break this trap, but his efforts were in vain. Yifeng can't break through it after all. This formation is too amazing. So he lacks the strength to destroy the formation. So he decided to try something different. Xiaobing asked if he was an idiot who couldn't understand human speech. After all, he said, there was no way the guy could break through it. But already the formation was beginning to crack. Xiaobing didn't realize what was going on. Zhang Yifeng had found the place he was looking for after all. All this time, he had been searching for the formation's eye. It was located where spiritualized qi was absorbed the fastest, but at the same time, it was the weak point of the formation. When he passed where Xiaobing's bodyguards were standing, it took 2 or 3 breaths for the formation to start absorbing spiritual energy, so they weren't the formation's eyes. But the moment he attacked the barrier space beside him, the absorption of spiritual energy began instantly. It takes 5 people to create a spiritual blocking formation, meaning the barrier couldn't possess such a formation unless someone else was hiding. Xiaobing was also inside the formation the entire time, besides being the eye of the formation. To avoid Yifeng's attacks, Bing used a trick that made it appear as if he himself was outside the barrier, but he was not the one he decided to fool. Even without spiritualized qi, relying only on his body and the art of combat, he was still 100 times stronger than this boss. Yifeng punched the boss in the face. With this blow, he only deprived him of the ability to counterattack. We must strike while the iron is hot and finally defeat him. For daring to raise his hand against young Master Xiaobing, there would be no mercy for him. Perhaps it was another of his bodyguards, who stood up to defend his master. This person's strength is at the 3rd level of body hardening. He is now stronger than Yifeng. He would only have to use one technique to temporarily get rid of him. He used the Thunder Palm technique, 3rd form, a thunderous palm strike, but this man was even able to take his punch. Yifeng didn't realize who it was. With one punch of his fist, he negated his thunderous strike. This kid knows no limits. Tonight is the end of him. That bodyguard kept hitting him. Hiyajiao began to worry about the guy, for she realized that his affairs were bad. If this continues, his life will be in danger. She must call for help immediately. Yifeng jumped away from him. Since arriving in this world, he had never been injured like this before. This time, he's facing a real opponent. The speed of his blows is out of all proportion. He can't keep up with his movements at all. With only a level of tempering, it's impossible to achieve such speed, even if his battle technique is honed on fighting with a quick outcome. Unless his physical abilities have been augmented with elixirs. He used the Wind and Thunder Palm technique. Man just broke the hold, but Yifeng wants to use it again. Perhaps he doesn't know how to do anything else. It's hard to follow his movements with your eyes. Then it's best not to watch it at all. The essence of the word wind in the name of his technique is to create this very wind with the help of streams of spiritualized qi. Spiritualized qi in turn is also very sensitive to natural air currents. To catch the direction of his movement and dodge his attacks, all he has to do is react to that spiritualized qi, and he did it. This kid has too weird of a movement technique, which is why there's no way he can finish him off. All he has to do is get even faster, a lot faster. This old man was getting nervous and had already opened gaps in his defense. All he has to do to catch him off guard is to hit him at half strength. He punched the attacker. The old man started spitting blood. Yifeng noticed those drops of blood. There are still components of the elixir in his blood. Zhang Yifeng used a secret technique, blood alchemy. He succeeded in creating a pill. His enhancement is nothing more than the result of the elixirs. He can do that too. He advanced to the 3rd level of body hardening after eating the pill. The old man didn't realize what had just happened. Using a couple drops of his blood, he made an elixir that allowed him to fully reach the 3rd level of body hardening. Yifeng threw another punch at him. This blow threw the old man backwards, after which he hit the wall. Victory was the guy's for the taking. The girl asked if he was okay. He had a couple of scratches, but it wasn't serious. He noticed some paper near the man lying there. It is a promissory note for multiple loans and at high interest rates. So they were the ones behind the fraud. A surprising find indeed. The Xiao family is clearly pissed off that they've decided to run a scam in Jingkai. The policeman said to take them away. The girl was run up to and asked if anything was wrong with her. It was her dad. She said she was fine. The old man asked how she managed to get out of the situation. Zhao Zhao replied that his fellow senior student had saved her. Not only did he turn the extortionist to flight, but he also defeated Xiao Bing and his bodyguards. He looked at one of the Xiao clan's bodyguards. This boy was clearly not that simple, since he was able to defeat such a warrior with his bare hands. Who he really is. If the opportunity arises, you should lure him to your side. She was too naive to take an escort. She didn't realize that things were so turbulent in this town. When delivering that thing, she'll have to ask Daddy to assign his men for extra security. Only she thinks they might not be enough. In that case, why doesn't he allocate an additional invitation to the auction? After which she can invite Zhang Yifeng to it as well. If she asks him to help her out, it will also help them get along better. Such suggestions even made her blush a little. That's a great idea. She won't waste any time and will ask him right away. She told the senior to wait. She had a case she wanted to ask him for help with. There's an auction tonight. She offered to keep her company. Her father had some business to attend to, so he couldn't make it. So she wants him to accompany her to the auction. The senior is cool enough to be her bodyguard. Of course, she'll pay him for it. He was originally interested in this auction, and now he could make money by going with her. So he agreed. But she had to tell him what items of special value would be for sale. This is the gilded horn of an immortal. They say it's very valuable. The item sold for 150,000. The auction process and rules in this world were not at all different from those on the Lingyue continent. He Yajiao asked if he liked something. She will help him win something. He thanked her for her concern, but he didn't know much about works of calligraphy and paintings of antiquity. He is only interested in spiritualized objects. The first spiritualized item of today's auction has finally arrived, a vessel containing the energy of an immortal. It is capable of continuously absorbing the spiritualized qi contained in the air and then dispersing it through the neck, thus providing great benefits for refinement. The man behind Zhang Yifeng was seeing something like this for the first time. So did the others in the hall. This vessel is a fake. There is no fluctuation of spiritualized qi around it. But what this kid was saying? How many similar values had he ever met in his life? All items in the auction go through a special appraiser's inspection. Since they don't believe it, then they just have to watch it. Some object fell out of the jug. This trinket turned the moisture in the air into mist and then atomized it. So this vessel is a fake. The auction owner, Hong Lao, said to check the person who sent the vessel. He introduced himself to the young man. Thanks to the boy's keen eye, his honor was untarnished. Yifeng replied that Hong Lao was exaggerating. Someone other than him had similar concerns. It was just that no one wanted to voice them. As a thank you for his fair words, he invited him to attend a small banquet among friends to be held after the auction. He thanked the owner for the invitation. Hong Lao is a famous collector of treasures and antiques. A wide variety of treasures awaited them ahead. For some reason, he had the feeling that all the spiritualized items here were mediocre. Good things are always left for last. If he keeps watching, he'll see for himself. And finally, the last item from the spiritualized items category, the gilded horn of an immortal. The scope of its use is unknown. Guests of this auction who are interested in this item may begin bidding. It is a special treasure of the High Star School from the Lingyue continent. Only by coming into contact with the opponent's attacks is he able to reproduce the course of functioning of his spiritualized Kwai. It is able to easily mimic, interpret, and crack the subscriber's technique. Furthermore, the ash left after such absorption is also able to promote tempering. After this item was stolen, the head of the High Star School entrusted him to search for it. He searched everywhere, but he never found this crucible. However, this gilded horn of the immortal is not the original. Since there is a copy, the original has been discovered. This case must be monitored closely. No matter how you look at it, the Lingyue continent was once very closely related to this world, and may have become isolated from it for some reason. He wanted to tell the girl that the item was also a fake. Yajiao decided to reveal the truth to him. Everything on display here, from the paintings to the lot currently being auctioned for, are fakes. If all the paintings and jewelry here were authentic, it could spell trouble. For security reasons, the auction has disclosed this information only to the most trusted buyers. In other words, he has the opportunity to meet the lost treasure of the High Star School. Someone bid 8 million. They got too involved in the conversation, and now they need to start bidding. She put up 10 million. Yifeng asked why she grabbed his arm. The sign was in his possession, so what else could she do? The old man bet 12 million. They bid 15 million. The countdown to selling the item began. 15 million, 2. 15 million, 3. Sold. The Immortal's gilded horn goes to the young lady. Jiao Jiao asked if the senior student would take care of getting the item, and under no circumstances should he let his guard down. He agreed, so she could take it easy. He came to collect the lot he won from the venerable teacher. There was just one problem. The Immortal's real gold-plated horn was stolen 5 minutes ago. For security purposes, they had secretly embedded many skilled craftsmen at this event. Once they recovered the horn, they would immediately deliver it to them. Suddenly, the lights went out. The others started to panic, because there might have been burglars in here. Everyone present should set aside panic. They should follow the staff to the exit without creating pandemonium. She'll head for the exit in the meantime. He must hurry too. They'll meet on East Street. Well, someone shut her mouth. Yifeng was clearly starting to worry about the girl. He immediately ran after her, but the kidnapper got away. He noticed that the kidnapper is at the 5th level of body hardening, higher than the protagonist. But if he was careful, he could easily solve this problem. He was finally able to get away from that boy. He was glad at the thought, but the protagonist that stood behind him didn't think so. Yifeng told him to let her go. He can certainly do that, but if he's capable of anything, he has to save her himself. This he will do even gladly. Yifeng attacked the kidnapper. The kidnapper was able to block his blow. He released needles into the protagonist. Yifeng was able to dodge them with ease. So these needles were poisoned. The new body isn't immune to poisons. Best to stay alert. People who use concealed weapons often lack a strong foundation in the hand-to-hand techniques aspect. Yifeng throws a nice leg kick of his own. Now the blade is showing. That's the blade the kidnapper used to get rid of the kid. He remembered something. This is the handwriting of the 6 Marks faction from the Lingyue continent. They have achieved perfection in turning ki into weapons. In just a moment, they can create all sorts of weapons using spiritualized ki. With the right movement techniques and moves, they are always able to take the enemy by surprise. He didn't expect to meet a person from this faction here. His deduction turned out to be correct, and this world was indeed connected to the Lingyue mainland. He had a chance to return after all. We should grab him and then interrogate him. He used the Thunder Palm technique, the 5th form. A multitude of lightning bolts pierced the heart. But unfortunately, this attack was ineffective. This kidnapper can even do that. He turned the spiritualized chi into a protective garment of plastic metal. Only the talents here would think of such a thing. That's strange. He is far superior to Yifeng in terms of level. Yet he never used a killing move. Instead, he chose to stall from the beginning. He suddenly felt a cluster of spiritualized chi, but at the current stage he can't see the direction of her flows. It's likely that the enemy has used a spell, but he's been ignoring something important all this time. There isn't much spiritualized ki in this world, so there's only one explanation for how he managed to create so many weapons. He has a supply of spiritualized ki with him, which he gradually released from some artifact or talisman. He too has the ability to turn spiritualized chi into a weapon. He just doesn't use it that often. And if he uses it, he'll beat the kidnapper's skills by a head. Blood appeared on his hand, just as the guy thought he was hiding a spiritualized key inside the rune. Quite a rare ornament, what this thing is. But there was something wrong. The kidnapper immediately jumped away from him. Good for the kid for realizing that. Only it was already too late. He stealthily released the spiritualized chi around the room, using spells to hide its presence. It was time to reveal all the cards. The kidnapper used a myriad of blades. These blades are capable of independently pursuing their target until he dies. He wished the guy to have fun and left. Problematic. It'll take time to deal with them. He hopes nothing happens to the girl. He also noticed something interesting on this rune. The kidnapper released Hiyajiao. She asked if the gentleman could hear her out. She was captured to force her father to hand over the Immortal's gilded horn. The girl asked if she would be released if she called him and told him to hand over the horn. Her father knows a master forger of spiritualized objects. To buy her back, all he has to do is create a fake and hand it over. But the young lady is wrong. The Immortal's gilded crucible has been in their hands for a long time. The reason he had captured her was because they needed her eyes and blood as a sacrifice for the Immortal's crucible. Zhao Jiao asked why her. She was born with spiritual eyes of the highest rank. Therefore, the claim is no longer against him. His blade was already near her eye. She asked about the spiritual eyes of the highest rank. But he's too lazy to explain. Let him ask the devil when he goes to hell. She dodged his blow. the girl asked sincerely, and he didn't even answer. There's no time to stall. We should try to hide somewhere. She was glad when the senior came in. The kidnapper didn't understand how the kidnapper got out, and he had indeed somehow managed to reach the 5th level of body hardening. Originally, Yifeng thought he was in a difficult situation, but as luck would have it, he had a kidnapper's rune. In different environments, runes with the same properties have different lettering. It takes time to figure out how to use them in the most effective way. He hadn't been in this world that long, so he hadn't had time to adjust to the runes here yet. It's a customized rune. He can hack into it and use it for his own good. The kidnapper never ceased to be amazed at this guy's tricks. He turned her effect. Her drawing blood on the palm of her hand just had the opposite effect. All the weapons that the kidnapper had created were dismantled and turned into spiritualized chi, which the guy infused into his body. As a result, he destroyed the obstacle and also increased his level of tempering. In a short period of time, he was able to absorb such a huge amount of spiritualized chi and survive. Who the hell is he that can do such a thing? It's not that important. What's important is that before he was able to mislead the guy with a spell because his hardening level was higher before. Now, he doesn't have that advantage. He realized he had to get out of here. Well, the protagonist wasn't about to let him go. He almost caught him. He decided not to pursue him after all. All he had to do was to keep He Yajiao safe first. He found the school's identification sign. She had recently heard that the Immortals' gilded horn was also in their possession. They need to tell Hong Lao about everything as soon as possible, and find people to intercept them. But the guy replied that they didn't need to do that. Zhang Yifeng used some sort of technique of his own. First of all, he would get the girl to safety and then go in search of the horn. That would be the best option. She yelled that it shouldn't be done because she was afraid of heights. But the guy jumped after all. Before the kidnapper could escape, the protagonist left a thread of spiritualized chi on him that would lead to his partners. They didn't run that far. He told her to go home. Yifeng would be back a little later. He's managed to locate the location of the gang. Gorn would soon return to his rightful place. She told him to be careful. The girl could barely walk after that jump. A blue energy enveloped his body. In an instant, he was gone. The speed of that type is not impressive at all. But that's great. Now he has a plan. The kidnapper returned and reported that the girl had escaped. She had a strong bodyguard with her to whom he was no match. Although top-rank spiritual eyes aren't that common, it's still not that rare. Right now, the hardest thing to deliver is the Immortal's horn. But suddenly they were stopped. It was Li Cheng. The boss asked why he was yelling like that. There were 2 Li Cheng among them. Li Cheng had an insignia on his forearm. The boss said to show it. He came across a troubled boy, and he took him in. The doppelganger said the same thing. This person is using the technique of changing appearance. Li Cheng's clothes show damage, and judging by the nature of the damage, the insignia could not have been left unscathed. Whoever came first must be the imposter. But why did everyone suddenly take on the appearance of Li Cheng? This can't be happening. He's so ugly. He doesn't want to turn into him. Even being at the first level of groundwork, he still can't tell the difference between truth and fake. The opponent is a master in the use of spiritualized chi. Under the circumstances, there is only one thing left to do. He ordered everyone to stay put. He's going to report to the chief to come and find out. But someone was already standing in front of him. He immediately thought the Immortal's horn was in a strange man's possession. He just didn't want to risk it without being sure. He went to report without taking a single subordinate with him. He wouldn't have escaped if he didn't have the horn with him. The man asked who he was and from what clan, but he had nothing to say. In such a case, there is no need to hold back. It's a punishing blade, a treasure of the Six Marks faction. This blade is capable of cutting the opponent's spiritual meridian system, thus practically rendering him unable to counterattack. And he is indeed capable of turning his body into something like that. It's a nasty situation. If Yifeng uses spiritualized qi, it will cut the meridian system and destroy the guy's cultivation. His body isn't able to resist weapons yet, so hand-to-hand techniques alone won't be enough. If only there was a comfortable piece that fit well in the hand, and also didn't contain spiritualized qi. Well, for some reason there was only one bristle cone here. There's no more time. We'll have to make do with what we have. Fencing technique star dissection. This sprout is stronger than he thought. What an extraordinary fencing technique. It knows that the grass stalk can easily break, so it never once let the blade hit it. She kept striking the back of the blade and countering it by summoning the sword's energy. His faction's blade technique was capable of something too. In that case, let him come up and show exactly what he can do. It was like he was in a dance with that blade. Yifeng started teasing him to show him something else. A man feels like that kid's teasing a cat with a stalk, twisting the captain to his heart's content. He feels like he'd better go. He used the highest stage of turning chi into a weapon, but he still can't beat some stalk. The only thing left to rely on is the forbidden technique. But it was bad. He couldn't activate it. The energy of Yifeng's sword had destroyed him. Now he's powerless. The protagonist threw a punch at him. The man didn't realize what had happened. It was as if his body had broken, that even he could not move from his seat. The star dissection swordsmanship technique is known for being overly uncompromising. Any weapon that encounters it ends up taking damage. And in the case of humans, it splits meridians. But Yifeng's weapon was soft. Nevertheless, the enemy would still have to lie down for 24 hours to recover. He shouted to the others to quickly help him. The others drew their weapons, but he dealt with them quickly. He was able to defeat even a level 1 groundwork level 1 wielder. Even if they attacked together, they were no match for him. Here is the original. Yifeng didn't think that he would ever have the treasure of the High Star School in his hands. He would have to study it thoroughly. Who was this guy after all? He had never met such a powerful warrior from any clan. But if it's the person he's thinking of, it changes everything. He survived, so he should tell his chapter about it. Zhang Yifeng told He Yajiao that he had returned the Gilded Immortal's mount. Senior Zhang is so cool. Yifeng asked why they had captured her. They already had the horn, after all. She replied that she had higher rank spiritual eyes and needed them as a sacrifice for the Immortal's horn. The guy interjected, wondering if this was a joke. She was almost killed recently. She's really not in a joking mood right now. She must have seen the spiritedness that hovered around him during the fight. An ordinary person couldn't do that. She was surprised that others couldn't see it. She thought that when masters measured their strength, something like this would happen. A blue flame appeared in his hand. The guy asked if she could see it. She replied that it was blue fire. There was a circling dragon. What she saw was called the Firestorm Dragon Ornament. This technique can only be clearly seen by warriors who have reached the first level of groundwork. Although he can use it, but with his level, he can only see fire. This restriction does not apply only to people who possess higher rank spiritual eyes. So she's pretty talented. She doesn't want to make the guy uncomfortable. Since she has the talent, she wants to try to start improving herself. But she will definitely need someone to teach her everything. She offers to be her teacher, but he said no. All the more reason not to stay here for long. She wanted to learn some techniques for self-defense. Couldn't he really teach her? A mentor once is a father for life. He cannot, at his age, become her second father. His actual age is 3,000 years or more. She called him her second daddy. He Yajiao asked second daddy again if he would teach her a few tricks. And where did she get such skills from? He would agree if she stopped calling him that. The girl accepted his terms. They began their training. Not just sitting like this face to face. Her heart fills with an unbearable heat. He is completely focused on the training and doesn't lose concentration for a second. Perhaps it's because he has a more in-depth level of hardening. Or he doesn't care about her at all. But he's going to go crazy at any moment. If I had known that this body was completely incapable of maintaining concentration, I never would have taken her on as an apprentice. 2 hours later, they were finally done. He said to try to do it the way he taught her. She followed his teachings. This technique cut the spoon into 2 halves. When she makes a little more progress, send all her bodyguards back home to guard the vault. Cruel punishment. Better to fire them right away. Keeping an eye on the vault is the main job of her family's guards. The He family's job is to purchase spiritualized items for each clan. If an order cannot be picked up right away, it is placed in the vault for 24 hours, and the guards are responsible for its safety. That's pretty weird. Why don't they send their people out to bid? None of them want others to know who bought what. High-rank spiritualized items are very rare. Among them, there are some that can increase the strength of an entire clan. Should clan wars break out, these items will become their secret weapons. Could these clan wars she's talking about really be starting? They really are. The simple fact of the matter is that all clan wars are either held in sacred lands for perfection or in ancient rune territory, away from the eyes of outsiders. He kept thinking this world was pretty calm. Turns out there are dangerous undercurrents here. Yifeng asked if the symbol was familiar to her. He ripped the thing off one of the kidnappers. She can't answer that question. It's better to ask Hong Lao. He knows a lot. He heard that this young man had single-handedly retrieved the Immortal's gilded horn. The more he learns about him, the more he wants to invite him to his clan. Yifeng offered to discuss it later. Today, they came here with an urgent matter. He asked if the owner of the auction could help determine the origin of the item. He took it from one of the people who had stolen the horn. Hong Lao seems to know something. It's the symbol of a member of the Fight Club. Yifeng inquired as to what it was. It is a place where warriors of all clans gather and compete against each other. The clans send their warriors there to develop their skills. She had watched them compete once. It was quite interesting. It's just an emblem. You can't identify a specific person from it. All you have to do to find him is go to the competition. Then we'll have to compete. Hong Lao asked if this competition was of interest to him. The guy replied that he did. In this case, he appeared just in time. In this competition season, the contestants who could make it to the top 8 could pass one test and receive personal guidance from Patriarch Sun. He is a mysterious and inscrutable man of profound knowledge. It is said that the roots of his heritage come from a place called Lingyue continent. The guy couldn't believe that this was really the same mainland. Hong Lao had not heard of this place, however. Looking at the Patriarch's level, one could understand that this mainland was a place of stern warriors. There are people from the Lingyue mainland here. We need to contact them as soon as possible to find a way back. He should definitely take part in the competition. Yifeng asked how he could sign up for them. He wants to start training right now. If the girl is not mistaken, one must own an invitation card, and only warriors of powerful clans can get such cards. If it's okay with the guy, he can use the auction owner's card. Although the technique accompanying, in addition to the card, is only D rank. He would very much like to have it, but he can't accept it for nothing. He offered to put a price on it. Hong Lao appreciates it, but he still hasn't repaid the courtesy the guy gave to the auction house. Besides, he's going to need help again this time. He wants to find out who is targeting the auction house, but he doesn't have the right fighter with him for the task. The guy is only required to take part in the competition and nothing more. But if he figures out who was behind the attack, that is to inform Hong Lao. This card has a book of techniques in its memory that can be studied and practiced before a competition. During the competition, purchasing new techniques, spiritualized items, and elixirs is also done with this card. If anything is needed, he can come anytime. The girl thanked the owner of the auction. He senses a cluster of congealed spiritualized qi nearby. Perhaps someone is watching him. Someone had relayed that Zhang Yifeng was indeed interested in the Lingyue mainland. Apparently, his status could now be identified. They must kill Zhang Yifeng immediately. The man accepted this order. I think he found whoever was following him. He already wanted to attack the man coming out. But Hong Lao stopped the young man. After all, this is the auction appraiser Lao Huang. But his hand was already in front of the man's face. Yifeng didn't throw a punch, but he still fainted. Zhang Yifeng made a mistake. It's not him. I wonder if that man escaped. He Yajiao asked the senior student why he snapped so suddenly. He gives her a fright. The boy replied that someone was following them. He almost managed to capture the stalker. Lao Huang woke up and asked what had happened. The guy apologized to him. He didn't mean to insult him, but they'd only just met. Yifeng almost punched the appraiser. All he remembers is falling asleep on the move. When he woke up, he was here. He couldn't have been so overtired. How could he have fallen asleep on the move? The one who had been following them had taken over Lao Huang's body. He then took advantage of the moment while they were trying to bring him back to normal and flew away unnoticed. He's dealing with a master of the spirit technique. He used spiritualized qi to transmit the message, but he managed to intercept some of the content of the conversation, and it seemed to mention Yifeng's name. So, why is this person targeting him? If anyone actually listened to them, they need to stay on their guard from now on. He plans to strengthen the security measures of the auction house. He thanked for the memorialization of Hong Lao. It's time for them to go home, because the senior is going to a competition soon. She wants to help with his luggage. She wondered who was watching them and why they were doing it. If the guy caught on, he'd be sure to ask. He'd used a diversionary trick this time, but he wouldn't be able to hide next time. It only takes a few clicks on the phone to see the tech. He found the Heavenly Attraction Formation, and this was the D rank. It's a high-level magic technique that the mainland once even had a bloody feud between several schools over. And they consider it D rank. What does A rank look like then? Training first and foremost, so it's not that important. The study of technique is practically complete. It can be used to increase strength using the ash from the Immortal's gilded crucible. You might even be able to make a breakthrough. There was a knock on his room. It was a girl. Her dad said he would take the Immortal's gilded crucible tonight. He strongly advised him to take the ashes from the crucible. Otherwise, he'll lose a lot. So he also knows about the properties of ash. He's helped the Hai family so much. It wouldn't be nice if they didn't thank him. Then he'll make an elixir using the ash. She'll learn how to do it too. The countless paths of the sky flock and return on all sides of the world. This is the Silver Moon elixir. It has a significant effect on increasing tempering. It could only be created with the ash produced by the Immortal's mount. The boy asked if she would have this elixir, but she will not eat the created thing out of the filthy ashes. Her thinking is narrow. When Yifeng eats it, she too will realize how good this elixir is. He took the elixir, after which he made a breakthrough. He thought it was a little short before the breakthrough. Looks like that ash had been infused for quite some time. So he's reached the groundwork. He confirmed her hunch. Papa had said that most warriors took more than 10 years to reach this stage. She hadn't expected him to be able to do it so quickly. He did say how useful this thing was, didn't he? The guy asked again if she wanted to try it, and yet she refused again. Zhang Yifeng will take him in then. It was kind of weird. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's already dark outside. But it only got dark at their place. The guy asked if she noticed anything strange as she walked to his room. On the way, she felt pain in her legs and even an accidental fall. But when she entered his room, it went away. He stealthily set up a dark formation around the house. If a person's tempering level is not high, she may feel heaviness in her legs and fall down. It also activates her switch. It is a ghostly formation of extermination. Just a short while ago, he was watching and eavesdropping, and now he showed up again. So he decided to take advantage of her higher-ranked spiritual eyes. But she had learned battle techniques, so she wasn't afraid of them anymore. But it is a formation of absolute annihilation. It exterminates the flesh and spirit of the person who happens to be in range. He must be their target. Then what do they do now? She need not worry, for he knows how to handle it. But she's still a little scared. This time the girl doesn't want to be a burden, so she asked how she could help. He offered to check her homework. He has already talked about spiritual energy, which has 5 elements, and how these elements interact with each other. This is the most basic knowledge, material for junior high school students. Only by mastering the basics can it adapt to all changes. The form of spiritual destruction uses the 5 elemental attributes of spiritual energy to cultivate evil spirits. The enemy first set up a 5-element formation outside the villa, and then placed the evil spirits of the primary form in this formation, giving them the opportunity to grow and develop. When these spirits absorb enough spiritual energy, even a martial artist at the foundation stage is unable to deal with them. This is why this form is called deadly. In other words, one must destroy the formation before the evil spirits proliferate. In this endeavor, her higher spiritual eyes will be of great help. He asked if she could see a cluster of energy there. One of them will develop some sort of attribute and become the eye of the formation, and then its color will change. She has to tell the guy when any of the clusters change color. After that, he will hit it. But he can determine the eye of formation, and even without higher spiritual eyes, can't he? She's afraid of making a mistake. He must concentrate on using the 5-element confrontation technique. He has no time to observe the clusters of energy. Yajiao will do his best. Her eyes noticed something. She saw the eye of the fire attribute formation. Yifeng immediately jumped to strike there. The evil spirits of the original species appeared. So far, they are not a particular threat and are easy to disperse. Is it true that fighting evil spirits is so easy? She had encountered such things at home before, but she didn't know anything about them yet. At that time, one of the spirit items broke and something impure came out of it. The He family had to enlist the help of 50 martial artists from 3 different clans to seal them. Were those evil spirits different from these, or was it just like Dad said? And it's only because Zhang is a martial arts genius. The girl asked if she could try to beat a couple. It didn't seem to be that hard. It's good that she wants to test her powers. But although the original evil spirits aren't as strong as spirits that have absorbed enough energy, they can still be dangerous to her. Zhang's battles are beyond the comprehension of ordinary people after all. As she did, she also noticed the eye of the array with the water attribute. He took the shield of the earth deity, after which he quickly dealt with the spirits. They got rid of another wave. All evil spirits must disperse after the formation is destroyed. He used to be a loner, but now thinks having an apprentice to work with is great too. Why did Yajiao get a call from Dad at a time like this? The girl asked if she could answer because her dad was calling. The guy replied that she could talk, and he would deal with the others. He told the bodyguards to go up with him to retrieve the Immortal's horn. He feels like something is wrapped around him, but he can't see anything, which makes him kind of uncomfortable. He called back to his daughter and said he was a little early. He told her to go downstairs and open the door. She told him not to come any closer, because they had a problem here. It was bad. Evil spirits have possessed other people. Yajiao asked Zhang what was going on. When an evil spirit enters the human soul, it becomes 100 times stronger. We must deal with them soon. She begged him to stop because that's where her father was. Yifeng is fighting evil spirits, not her father. So there's not much to worry about here. But they share a body. I can't help it. She doesn't quite understand the situation. Well, if she's wrong, she's wrong. Evil spirits have no consciousness. And since they were able to possess a human body so quickly, it means the caster is somewhere nearby. If Yifeng tries to defeat it through normal means, it will escape again. So he decided to put on a show and catch him here. Since she doesn't want to fight, they'll do without him. He said to take her father and bodyguards away. But Yajiao didn't know how to do that. She should use the body technique the guy taught her and spread the spiritual power. Evil spirits will be attracted by the spiritual energy. Zombies will follow her. But what does she do after that? And then he sits there to think about how to solve this problem. And she stays quiet and doesn't distract him. Let her consider it her first real combat training and just do what he says. The girl gets it. She doesn't know what the guy is up to, but she'll take his word for it. She began to do as he said. The zombies really started to follow her. She told Uncle Feng not to come any closer after all. The girl doesn't want to hurt him. Yifeng said not to let her emotions affect her body. Her steps are a bit haphazard now. He really decided to teach her now, and she's actually here trying to save people. She asked Daddy not to chase her. Her father stopped. It's gone. But suddenly she was attacked by another zombie. Some spirit was watching it all. Could it be that this was the same person called Immortal Emperors from the Lingyue continent, Zhang Yifeng? The conditions here were very different from those on the continent, and he had changed into a mortal body, causing his strength to decrease anyway. Now all he has to do is order the little girl to do a useless job. But the longer the evil spirits linger, the harder it is to deal with them. This time he's confident he'll succeed. Yajiao asked Zhang if he had come up with a solution. He almost came up with it. But how long would she have to wait? If they don't do something, her father and the others won't end well. Good ideas come to mind instantly. He starts. He used his technique. He was careless, causing him to fall under the effects of an ancient spiritual technique. Zhang Yifeng had been preparing for this from the beginning. He used the spirit extermination technique, a soul-like heavenly bow. Yajiao didn't know who this person was. Whether it was definitely the Zhang she knew. He aimed his technique at the people who had been possessed by the spirits. Because of this, the evil spirits began to leave their bodies. They didn't realize what had just happened. Yajiao asked her dad and the other uncles if they were okay. He replied that they were fine, but still asked what had happened. All evil spirits have been destroyed at once. His soul has nowhere to go. Then he will take over Zhang Yifeng's body. He didn't expect the organizer of the crime to take the bait so easily. Yifeng asked who the spirit was and who sent him to kill. But of course, he won't say anything. He wanted to use a soul-destroying technique. He wants to die and take the protagonist with him, which he started to do. The rest of us watched it. This guy decided to self-destruct so as not to reveal the organizer. The man thanked him for saving them and taking care of Zhao Zhao. He will take the Immortal's mounts and give him a mixed element spiritual array pendant, which can increase the effectiveness of the spell and the creation of spiritual energy. And it can also be used to build large, complex formations using a small amount of spiritual power. But heard from his daughter that the guy is good at formations, so this pendant should be useful to him. Yifeng thanked for it. With the Celestial Direction formation and this pendant, the clan competition will be easier for him. He wants to win it as soon as possible to find a way back. Participant Yifeng reported on his arrival. What kind of martial artist is this who won't even reveal his last name? He is a martial artist from the Zhang family, which used to be quite famous. Such a small family is only dust under the feet of the Feng family, so naturally he hadn't heard of it. Is the Feng family really that big? In previous years, the Feng, Chen, and Chu families always ranked in the top 4 in Guangzhou. Zhang better not mess with him. He'd have enough competition in the arena. He didn't need any unnecessary conflicts. But someone called out to him. Suddenly he was about to get hit, but Yifeng stopped it. The man didn't understand how he was able to do it, so he had a spiritual object. Those like him do not rely on their own strength, but on the spiritual items their families provide them with. Fighting outside the arena is forbidden, so for now he'll just turn a blind eye. But if that man dares to do it again, he'll turn his hands into tortillas. But he was again told to stop. The club manager can't allow the killer to compete. What kind of killer could he possibly be talking about? The Chen family reported that 3 days ago, the guy destroyed the soul of Foundation Stage Master Mo Chan, causing him to die. They have checked all the martial artists in the city, and Yifeng is the only suspect. He was just looking for a man who wants to harm him, and the man himself came to him and even tries to bite him. He handed him something with the words that the man would understand if he watched it. The club manager said to plug it into the computer and check it out. He asked the girl to borrow his spiritual eyes. He decided to influence those guys. Yajiao asked what he had just done. Yifeng simply used the split gaze technique and let them briefly see what she was seeing. The man said Mo-chan was the first to attack. The manager told him to shut up now. Yifeng knows the rules of his establishment. Anyone who maliciously harms another competitor before the competition must be suspended. He had destroyed his own soul. Yifeng was only defending himself, so if it was necessary to remove someone, it would only be him. That's the way it is. And there's someone who can be a witness. It was Hong Lao. The young man's neighbor was also there. 3 days ago, someone had placed a deadly formation in front of his house. Isn't Mr. Chi and Hong an acquaintance? They often watch competitions together and have known each other for a long time. And after hearing that Hong Lao gave his invitation card to the guy, he couldn't help but come. He knows that the manager is afraid of the Chen family, but Zhang Yifeng is his nominee. By making life difficult for him, the manager is also making life difficult for the old man. The manager apologized and told them to pass. There were a lot of people there. The girl also noticed it. He is participating in the first match. His opponent was Lingyue. She'll be cheering him on from the audience. The guy's got to give it his all. So this is his adversary. His name is Lingyue. He was hoping to have a good sparring match with Mo-chan, but there was no way he expected him to die. But since this guy had never competed, it would be easier for Lingyue to win. But is he sure of his words? The protagonist has not met a worthy opponent for a long time. After all, he's only a martial artist at the dream-laying stage. So how can he use the Heaven's Direction formation? The Heaven Direction formation requires a large amount of spiritual energy and soul power. It can only be mastered by martial artists of the 5th level of the foundation stage or higher. And where did this guy get the Sky Direction formation? He got it along with the invitation card, Lingyue simply inquired. Or maybe it was because he had just pissed his pants. It had been a week from the time he received the invitations to the start of the tournament, and the fact that he had reached this level in a week was really something amazing. For his own safety, he'd better avoid the formation and try to finish the battle as early as possible. They had waited long enough for this, and the first game was about to start. So she decided to introduce the first rule. As in previous years, they spin the wheel before each match, and the winner gets whichever award the wolf points to. And the prize of this round is the Cloud Sword technique. This is a common sword technique practiced by martial artists of the foundation level. It's not as good as his Heaven's Direction formation, so this reward is meaningless to him. The guy asked if he could interrupt her for a minute. The reward was too cheesy, couldn't you find anything better? To get the best rewards, players can make a bet. For example, on how long it will take them to win, or on the condition to hit the opponent only in a certain part of the body. Then the participant can restart the wheel. The guy asked what he could get if he bet on defeating his opponent in 1 minute. Zhang Yifeng upped the ante and decided to make his opponent in 1 minute. Let's see what he gets if he wins. Everyone looked at the wheel with interest. This time it's the gloves of cicada wings. They can suck out the aura of an enemy during an attack. Now that award was already better. But isn't it only the winner of the semi-finals who can get A-grade items? There should be no dirty tricks in the competition. The rewards in the wheel are randomly generated according to the difficulty of the competition. This means that from the system's point of view, Zhang Yifeng's current conditions are as difficult as the semi-final match. Accordingly, if he does not win the match within a minute, he loses. And in that case, his opponent will get not only the gloves, but also his technique, which is very disadvantageous. Is the guy sure he wants to continue? He said yes. This rookie is too prideful. Lingyue will just avoid him for a minute and win. Lingyue decided to begin, but suddenly he disappeared. The spectator wondered where Lingyue had gone. But who cared? If the opponent couldn't detect him within a minute, he would win. And this is the same guy who just recently bragged about his strength. There's no need to provoke Lingyue. He only does what gives him a good chance of winning. It's been 15 seconds. At the beginning and matches, he intentionally sent a doppelganger to the protagonist, while he himself shrank into the shadows and hid in the floor. So what if he couldn't catch Lingyue anyway? Then let him eat it. Zhang Yifeng used some of his techniques, and it was a soul-eating formation. Now he'll see if his opponent can hold out for another 30 seconds. This is not good. If this continues, his soul will be destroyed. He can't take it anymore. Yifeng quickly approached him, after which he threw it back. Lingyue can't fight anymore. The match was over in 53 seconds. And the winner of this match was none other than Zhang Yifeng. The girls shouted that Zhang was simply marvelous. The man he was looking for came to see Mr. Dai. The Lujin sect and the Chen family's Mo-chan had failed. This time, it was their locked moon gate turn. Ancestor Sun said to get rid of Zhang Yifeng, and prevent him from returning to the Lingyue continent. Dai Ling is the strongest warrior of the Dai family, so this task was entrusted to him. He will do everything in his power to destroy it. He will wait for Di Ling to give him good news. When Zhang Yifeng dies, his killer will become the next leader of the Locked Moon Gate. Dai Ling walked out and was approached by a girl who asked him where the conference room was. He doesn't know himself, as he is a martial artist, not some diplomat. How strange. What's that girl doing in a martial arts rest area? If she's not one of the participants, it's fine. She has almost no cultivation foundation. The spiritual force communication between him and Mr. Dai was encrypted, so only a martial artist above the 5th level of the foundation stage would be able to decipher it. Nothing to worry about. Better to focus on the task at hand. It looked like those two had just communicated using spiritual energy transmission. So he's going to kill Zhang Yifeng. Initially, she was just taking a stroll to help her grandfather find out the gossip, and didn't expect to hear about events of this magnitude at all. She would have to find a way to tell Zhang Yifeng about it, except that she had hardly had any contact with him before. Entertainment hall. Yajiao suggested going there and having fun. The boy agreed, but he was stopped. As it turned out, this girl was the head elder. He didn't expect to find her here. Yajiao noticed that although she did look innocent, she wasn't as cute as she was. It's likely that Yajiao will even defeat her in this year's university beauty pageant. The girl asked him why he hadn't told her about the head of his group before. He doesn't go to school often, so he doesn't know her well. She apologized if she disturbed the two of them. But this time, she came to the guy not as the head of his group, but as Grandpa Qi's granddaughter. This is the same old friend of Huan's who came to their rescue. Yifeng wondered why she didn't talk about it at uni. At least they could have said hello. He's a martial artist and hardly wants to draw attention to his studies, and she has nothing to do with him. So she didn't say anything so as not to bother him. Then it turns out she's here to talk about something important this time. But it would be uncomfortable to talk about it here. She offered to go with her. He didn't mind. Yagio said that this woman is very sneaky, so he should be careful. This is a young daughter in the He family, who can also communicate by transmitting spiritual power. Could it be that Zhang Yifeng taught her how to do this? They must be on good terms. This VIP box, although it looks quite open, it is sealed off from the surroundings, and there are treasures hidden here that are specially designed to isolate spiritual energy. Therefore, it's safer to talk here. Only the 5 most powerful families can reserve such a box. Grandpa has a wide circle of friends, and it just so happened that she happened to be in his light as well. The guy asked what she wanted to talk about. Her grandfather gave her an important message. A martial arts master named Dai Lin plans to kill him in the next match. Yajiao didn't believe that man wanted to kill Zhang. The guy doesn't seem very surprised. It's not the first time they've tried to kill him, except he doesn't understand why they're coming after him. It's not like he's done anything to them. She doesn't know if this information will be useful, but she knows that the Lozan sect, Mo Chan, and Di Lin are trying to kill him to prevent him from returning to the Lingyue continent. No wonder these people know such techniques. It seems his enemies are those who also came from the continent or are somehow related to it. He might not be able to return safely until he got rid of them. Yajiao asked what kind of continent it was, and why they wanted to prevent him from going there. This long story, he will tell her another time. In brief, there are enemies standing in his way. The guy asked if she was sure she got that information from her grandfather. The girl asked what he meant. Normally, martial artists would use the spiritual energy transmission technique when talking about such things. But even if one were to decipher the message while being around them at this time, it would only be approximate. Her message is strangely detailed. Where her grandfather got this information from, she doesn't know, but he is well connected. So it's no surprise. If she's lying, he'll kill her. She immediately stood up abruptly. Yajiao asked why she flinched so suddenly. She replied that it was fine. The girl asked if the guy had said anything to her, but he replied that he had not said anything. I wonder if it was an auditory hallucination. This is too weird. He had just used an encrypted spiritual energy transmission to check on the headman. She possesses the ears of a wind spirit. It's an ability that allows you to hear sounds that even many top-level masters can't hear. And the information she relayed was most likely heard by accident. So why is she trying to hide it? He thanked her for the warning. The next match would start in half an hour, so he would go get ready. They said goodbye. Di Ling was already in the arena, the very person who should kill him. The girl told him to be careful. For some reason, he was looking down. Is he trying to hide his intent to kill? Dai Lin raised his eyes and said that he had heard about a rookie who won his first match rather quickly. How amazing. He took illegal drugs. This illegal drug is capable of allowing the user to absorb the maximum amount of spiritual energy from the surrounding space. This person will be able to utilize even the spiritual forces contained in the blood and sweat of his opponent. The density of spiritual energy in the arena is low, so even if you use the drug to its full potential, you won't be able to achieve much. So what's he up to? It's time to spin the wheel again. But what do they want to put? He won't make any special conditions this time. If he wins, he'll just take what's on offer. He's interested to see what this guy's medicine can do. Dai Ling is betting to take out his opponent. You can't bet on murder. What's the point of betting on it? When he kills Yifeng, he'll take everything the protagonist has. His speed is extremely fast, but he can still keep up with him. But it's still best to be proactive. He struck his opponent with his arm. Dai Ling spat blood. It's the blood that got on the protagonist's arm. There was too much blood he spit out. Although Yifeng isn't obsessed with frequency, it's unpleasant, so he'll wipe it off while he has the chance. Well, for some reason it didn't want to wash at all, and suddenly that blood pierced his arm. Dai Ling's blood could turn into a sharp tool that would pierce the opponent, but it could also flow into his veins, flow through his body, and eventually pierce his heart. It's a kind of dark art, but he can still deal with it. He used spiritual energy cleansing. All he needs to do is to cover his veins with spiritual power, and then draw out Dai Ling's blood, along with the infected blood. And the problem will disappear. That's odd. I wonder if he took the drug just for the sake of taking it, but it was part of his grand plan. The D family of the Locked Moon Gate has the supernatural ability of reversing life and death. Even the people on the continent don't know about it. Once he absorbs enough blood and spiritual energy from an opponent, he can leave a mark on him. And anyone marked, as long as they remain in a certain area, will be cursed by the curse of blood and will perish. He had taken the drug specifically to absorb Yifeng's spiritual energy. To harm him, blood alone would not be enough, so he had no other choice. He's done a good job. It's a deadly blood curse formation that kills for sure if you don't leave the area of effect. There's no point in trying to hide somewhere. It has cast its spell over the entire arena. If the protagonist leaves its area of effect, he will simply lose the match. So he has no choice but to die inside the formation, or to admit defeat and go outside it. The girl relayed that Mr. Hong had found the pursuer, so he could just admit defeat. If he loses this round, he will lose a clue about the path to the Lingyue continent. Besides, he can't let his enemies win. It's okay, he knows what he has to do. Yifeng used his formation. How dare he try to use the Heaven's Direction formation against his Blood Curse formation? It doesn't make sense. The Blood Curse is based on marking the characteristics of one's blood and spiritual energy. Let him be rejected and wipe out the entire land. If the earth destroys him, he will turn the heavens against her. The beam was directed towards Yifeng. Zhang Yifeng noticed that something was approaching. Somehow he was able to deal with this attack. How could such a thing be possible? Dai Ling had never seen someone who could resist the life and death conversion. The guy decided to take more drugs to increase the blood curse. Yifeng realized that he had decided to reinforce his information. If the protagonist continued to fight him like this, he would have to expend a lot of spiritual energy, which was not very effective. Why don't I just create a diversion then?